Merry meet, it's Yule, and in the southern hemisphere it's midsummer in the northern hemisphere. And this is part 2 of vegan, vegetarian, and what the diff and why. So I was talking about when things go wrong, and I was talking about the last part of it was when you have destruction to your body's ability to absorb nutrients because of a life of such and such diet. So because of that, I would always recommend going vegan slowly. Cut your portions and replace your portions with more of the plant-based things. And then start cutting out food groups entirely. So it might be cutting just out the dairy, and then cutting out the fish, then cutting out the beef, not in any particular order, then cutting out. So, take time. There's also a kind of a psychosomatic trigger that if you were to deprive yourself, your body's going to see it as depriving, your mind is going to see it as depriving, or your soul is going to see it as depriving if you just cut something out. So you need to do it slowly, and you need to, again, increase your quantities of the other things that are plant-based in order to make your body feel like it's not being deprived, because it will have a child tantrum fit, and this will undo you. The other reason why things go... so take your time with it. This will also allow your body to slowly adapt, slowly heal, slowly change. I would also, if you do have health conditions, when you go vegan or vegetarian that are all existing, I would also seek a naturopath, and I would seek a naturopath to start utilizing natural medicine in order to heal these things and to assist you in your path into going vegan or vegetarian. I wouldn't just go point blank. I would actually transition slowly. And now my cat is moaning. Sorry. She's talking to me. She's like, I want to be on the vlog too. So I would recommend that. Oh, my neighbour is so crass. I mean, digress here, but why do people do that? They stand outside and talk. And just go bloody inside and talk. No, the neighbours don't want to hear it. Or I definitely don't want to hear and see them. Like, it's like, dude, get a life. Or cultivate some brain cells and awareness, self-awareness. But anywho's, I digress. When things go wrong. So another area where things go wrong is emotional support. When you're making changes that are positive, Australia is really bad for this. The crab in the bucket, tall poppy syndrome. People here are disgusting for it. They will tear you back down. How dare you separate from us and do something different? How dare you have less to pay for on your grocery bill and you have more food because of the choices you make? No, you have to suffer just like us. They will pull you down. So I would probably be careful of who you say you're going vegan or vegetarian to, and I will try and associate with some like-minded who are already in that way of living or eating, to have some support, because it is really nasty there. The bullying is relentless, which is going to bring me to this next point, is the religious-based entitlement and bullying of those who make changes or who dare ask questions of, why am I eating a sacrificed dead animal? Do I have to? Why? Oh, how dare you ask that? My meat's my God, is pretty much the synopsis of it. And look, I need to say this. If your God requires you to sacrifice and torture an animal, another animal, to survive, what the fuck is your God? It's a psychopath. And most of these religions, when you look at them, really look at them and their text, they hate women. They think women are less, and they teach people that everything is created for them. It's egocentric, narcissistic, and abusive. And you can have as many charities as you want and virtue signal till the cows come home. But the simple fact, the very thing that you're following is based on an attitude like this, it flies in the face. It's an oxymoron, and it's contradictory and full of hypocrisy. But for the young people that go into being vegan or vegetarian, it is extra hard. They don't have the skills or the experience to buffer. And like, even in my age now, in my 50s, I feel negatively affected by people that bully me and look at me sideways because I won't eat the flesh of a living being. What the hell? What is wrong with you? What, you know, if anything, you're obviously greedy guts and obsessed with food. You know, just think it's more for you. What is it to you that someone decides not to participate in that? You know, obviously it upsets them because it brings up a deep residing truth that they don't want to face. And anyone bucking the trend and questioning things and doing what's best for them outside of what is peer pushed and created as a social norm, it destabilizes their comfy world of control, and it also allows them to not even think of any changes. So it's on the people that act like that, not the people that make the choices or make the questions and choices because of those questions. So that's something to consider when you're going vegan, vegetarian. It is rough. I'm in regional Victoria, and I swear, just, my God, my meat. And then you have the complete flip communist, and it's like nothing in between. You know, it's just crazy. And, you know, I do feel alone at times because of it, because I'm not going to entertain any of it. You know, I'll just keep on my true path, and I'll be keeping honest to myself and working on my spiritual path and physical path, and be true to that. I'm not giving that up for anyone. It's not worth it. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by a bunch of morons. And to be frank and honest, most people that I come across, as soon as they start aging as well, my age as well, they're missing teeth. They look like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Some of these meter types, they do literally look like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. There's these weirdos out there who are going, oh, we're just on the meter diet now. They're trying to save face and, you know, whatever reason. But they usually also have no dietetic or nutritional education. You know, they advocate for shitting on the streets because, oh, we shouldn't use toilets because it's what is that term when things it's gentrification. It's like, well, this is why there's so many diseases in places where they shit on the streets. But, you know, they all often push stuff like that and drinking urine, and they're just crazy, absolute crazy. And it's unfortunate, you know. I wish within academia, within universities, we could actually talk about vegan, vegetarian, whatever theory you have that counteracts what is sold to you. Because within that model, we can then nut out what is facts and what is my feels and what is just beliefs. But because people are excluded, I mean, I was doing horticulture, and boy, did I feel it as someone who is vegan. Everything's my meat, you know, blood and bone and rooster booster. There's no fucking need for that. Sorry, but there isn't. The biggest polluter of our oceans is fertilizer. It is overused. It is so overused, which is a totally another topic, which is more horticultural side, which I will do one day. There's no fucking it. But anyway, I was really copying it. It's like, oh, you're not one of us, and you will get shut down. You will feel unless you're some freaky vegan with who doesn't know what gender they are, with bright coloured hair, which I usually have bright coloured hair, but I was doing that before it was a thing. There's a side back from my hairdressing apprenticeship in my teen, but I just love colours. So it was something I did before it got it taken over, just like the whole rainbow thing. It's just, don't get me started on that. But yeah, it is so bad. It is so bad. And if you're a deep feeling empathic person, it will crush you. It will crush you. Just remember, when you're in academia or any of these institutions, that you're really going to have to work hard just to preserve your sanity, your soul, and your happiness, and to protect yourself, because it will crush you. They don't like dissent. They don't like anyone questioning. And it's all financially driven by big corporations and big ag. So any threat to that, they will destroy you, whether it's directly or indirectly, could be just from excluding you, or jumping into topics which, that sort of rub it in your face sort of thing while you're there, that sort of thing. It is pretty bad. I would love us to have our educational bodies back again, where we can actually question things and really investigate things. We've been declining in knowledge and developments and findings because of what's happened, and it's deliberate. We know that. So, now when it comes to going vegan or vegetarian, there are a lot of people who are religious that go vegan or vegetarian for health reasons, but they still follow the religions, which I don't understand considering what I just mentioned. But at the same time, it's still better than nothing, isn't it? If someone is a Christian and they're choosing to be vegetarian or vegan, well, good on them for that. I will never be at peace with the whole Christ insanity thing, but still, good on them for going vegan or vegetarian, especially with the peer pressure they're going to be feeling and copying with, the rest of the religious followers around them. So I think it's important to hold a space for those people to be able to make those decisions. And I don't like Islam, but Muslims as well that go vegetarian or vegan, good on them. They're going to be facing peer pressure too from their own. So support these people that do that make those changes. I think it's important. Through my decades as an athlete and a specialist in sports conditioning and performance nutrition, often the malady didn't get rectified by a direct remedy, but a malady of the physical proportion was often rectified by a practice of the spiritual proportion or mind proportion. Or a malady of the mind or the soul was often rectified by putting attention onto the physical proportion, and things balance themselves out in a homeostasis. So sometimes changing one's diet and lifestyle is a catalyst to also questioning any dogmatic or cults that someone has found themselves in, but because they were born into it and had no choice, they don't know any different perspective. It's, what I mean? So their judgment is clouded. So sometimes people need to go through something that is a catalyst to make changes in other areas, just like there are other decisions we make in life, not just about your diet. So I think it's important to hold space for people to have that journey. So anyway, finishing off on this second part, I'm going to bring up the agitators that infiltrate the vegan or vegetarian movement. They're usually flaming anarchists. They usually take on any term they think will be like F the system. And If there's no rules and regulations or systems, how do you think things are going to function? They don't. Rules and regulations are fine if they're not being run by raging psychopaths, which we have right now. We don't have a problem with rules and regulation. We have a problem with people who are putting them in place who are not loyal to their country, but to a globalist coup who are taking everything for themselves. We no longer have countries represented by those who are loyal to those countries and their people. Because if you're loyal to your country and your people and you're running it, or you're in a group that's running it, your intentions are doing what's best for your people and land, not a external interest outside of that. So, this is what our problem is. And I fear that if we tear down systems, etc., that it's just going to be bedlam. And for people who have no impulse control, they can't control their legs. They need to practice closing their legs sort of thing. Sorry to be crass, but it is what it is. They have no impulse control. And sometimes I wonder if there's a genetic component to that, but I digress. If there's no rules and regulations, etc., then they can just do whatever the fuck they want, and that it's a very egocentric, a selfish perspective to have. It really is. So there's a lot of those sorts of types within the vegan and vegetarian movement, just like there is in any other movement, that you need to weed out. And realize, unfortunately, they're going to use a vegan or vegetarian brand, but, they're not to be trusted. And again, a simple way of weeding that out is they're putting all this yoga stuff up and they're acting crass or talking crass, and they act degenerate and have low impulse control and, are driven by instant gratification, like sex and that sort of thing, then obviously they're either non-truthful, or they don't understand what they're talking about, or they don't understand the repercussions of what they are pushing. So don't invest so much security in the time that you notice these people. And sometimes these people don't understand what I've just said there, so they know no differ. Whatever, we all have our own journey. So be careful of the infiltrators within these sorts of movements, or I wouldn't say vegan or vegetarianism movement. It's just a lifestyle choice, and it's been done since the beginning of time. Or times in different areas, different cultures, often from people who see souls and spirits within all animals, not just the human animal, and a desire to connect and live with the other animals, not from a position of superiority, oh my God, to my meat, which came on later on. Which fed narcissistic sort of ways of thinking, which is probably why we have a narcissistic issue now with our populations, because everything's about my God, my meat, or me. It has fed that, and it has propagated that way of thinking and attitude and perspective and direction. So anyway, what else am I going to say? There are some as well that are agitators who are deliberate. An old communistic methodology is controlled opposition. So you create your own oppositions in order to always be in control. So it doesn't matter what side you choose, you're still in part of the control system or controlled opposition, which is kind of where some people go when it comes to anarchy. They don't want to be in any control. I'll put it this way. As a woman, I have no issue with patriarchal governance if it is true to what patriarchal governance is outside of Abrahamic religious cult mind viruses, which is basically to protect the land and the feminine. Not to exploit the land or the feminine. That is not the path of a lord or a king or kingship. In old Celtic times, kings would only live for a year and they were killed or sacrificed after that. Partly so, they didn't abuse their offers, but also we don't believe in death. We we come back. We believe in reincarnation. So, it's just a passage. We didn't fear death. And it's sad that we are, again, and we've been propagated to fear death so much that we do the most ridiculous things that self-harm, that harms others, harms the environment out of fear, and it allows those with ill intentions to manipulate others based on non-founded fear because of lack of knowledge too. When one has more knowledge and experience and insight, the fears diminish, or the power of the fears diminish because you're informed. If you're relying on the educational bodies and government or media to inform you, then I'm sorry. No. Often they're driving the fear. You have to do education, but I would say that when you go through educational systems, you need to be on your six. You need to be on guard 24/7. Educational systems or institutions are no longer safe places for the quest of knowledge. If anything, they will squash you if you dare break away from what they want to be pumping out. So you need to be very careful, but there's aspects within that you need to acquire to know. So at this point of time, it's an unnecessary evil. If I'm going to use that term, it's such a, these terms were propagated with it for so long that it's often very difficult to just change, the habit of saying the word. But, they propagate unnatural states of living and being. And, how we're going for time. I'm going to digress slightly to finish this off. At the moment, like here in Australia, we have, you can become a wildlife officer. And there's this severe wedge between natural living and the natural world. And I see wildlife officers as one of them. They teach wildlife officers to not feel with animals, but to treat animals as if they were objects and properties to control and or section away from the public, instead of helping the public live with the wildlife and encouraging this. They actually separate, and I think that's deliberate because nature heals. Being in a natural environment is how you heal a soul, and we all need a lot of healing, especially with everything we're bombarded with, everything that's happened. But they pull that method away. And the thing is, when they do that, they also do all these greeny looking things, which they say is for the greater good of the natural world. And meanwhile, they're chopping up birds with windmills. They're screwing up the bees with their flight path because of the EMF that's going on. So, it's contradictory, and people are going, me climate change. It's okay, the climate changes regardless of what you do. And I'll probably bring up that topic at one point as well. Because, even within the perspective of horticulture, is we have native, non-native, introduced or exotic and invasive sort of terminologies for plants. And, often things are just pushed native. And in the face of the fact that what if we are in a grand solar minimum, which we are, which means we need more cold plants, which means the soil will be changing, the atmosphere will be changing regardless of whether we're driving petrol cars or not. And if you're just pushing native, then you're sort of creating a plug in the artery of the earth in trying to homeostase and create a balance for any fluxes and changes that's happening. So I'll get into that topic there's another topic I'll get into at some point. But, so there's a lot there to unpack. So going vegan or vegetarian, there are many topics within. Nothing's point blank or carte blanche. It's quite a myriad of things. So it would be nice if people understood those before they start passing judgments or assumptions, because in knowing that, then we can limit discord we can limit agitations where there need not be. Unwanted destruction or unwanted distress. And, there's so much shit to do, really. Who wants crap? I don't. I'd rather be on my own and put up with any crap. And, so anyway, that's it from me. That was part 2 of vegan, vegetarian. What's the difference? Why? And very quickly, when it comes to genetics as well, it can impact you when things go wrong. It can impact your ability to go completely vegan or vegetarian or your food choices. And it is so rare. There's no way there's as many celiacs as they profess. And this comes out of Israel. The whole celiac, no carb BS comes out from there, because often they're selling the products that are targeted to follow the money every time. But those with Semitic genetics tend to have an issue with consuming some plant-based foods such as legumes. Now, this is probably why there's the fake meat sort of thing going on. Maybe I'm giving them credit here. Maybe there's that aspect. I don't know. But look, there's more than legumes. We really need our educational systems back. We need to be able to do more tests. We need to be able to do some more experiments. We need to, acquire more information for the different genetics. So different racial groups will differ in their tolerances and preferences of a vegan or vegetarian diet within that. So bear that in mind. So if you're going on that journey, you might need to tweak and change things according to your genetics. But obviously, because of the way things are at the moment with knowledge and information, a lot of these things you're going to have to just try yourself. Okay? Trust me, most people in the West aren't going to die from starvation. They need to lose some blubber. They need to lose some weight. So, take your time with it. That's it for me. Blessed be Mary Part. Sorry, I just had to put that in there too, because I nearly forgot. That's one of the things when things go wrong. And, before you make any dietary change, always make sure you're consuming enough water in the first place. It's the one most important thing you must be doing is the habit, at least have it for at least 3 months, of consuming enough water before you make any dietary changes. Yeah? Blessed be and Mary Part finally. Thanks for tuning in with me. Bye for now.